Dear students, hello, very good morning to everyone. Today we shall analyze as well as summarize the stanzas 8, 9, and 10 of From a Prayer for My Daughter, the poem, beautiful poem written by W.B. Yeats. These are the final stanzas of this poem. As you know, this poem contains 10 stanzas. Each stanza has 8 lines, and in this way, this poem has 80 lines. So now we are with stanza 8, 9, and 10. As you know very well that up to now what we have seen in this poem, that the poet father, he is worried about his newborn baby child, Annie Yeats. He prays for his daughter a happy life. He is concerned about her security and safety. Though she is lying, sleeping in the cradle, who knows nothing about this world. But the poet is worried that how she will grow in such a tormentous, such a dangerous world, because the World War First ended very soon at that time, but there were no hopes. Yeah, we can say there were little hopes of peace in the world even then. So, here the poet is expressing his own feelings regarding the safety of his daughter. He wants how she should grow in future, and basically he says that she should not be over beautiful, because the beauty leads to evils, leads to dangers, and therefore she should be courteous. She should be modest, so that she could attract the attentions of the people who are well behaved, who are the good persons, and who will ready to help her at the times of needs. So, as the poet expecting the worst time that is to come in the world, he wants that his daughter should grow with certain good qualities. So far, her safety, its security, and development in this world is concerned. Now, let us go with the stanza 8. What is there in it? I recite, an intellectual hatred is the worst, so let her think opinions are accursed. Have I not seen the loveliest woman born out of the mouth of plenty's horn? Because of her opinionated mind, barter that horn and every good, by quiet natures understood, for an old bellows full of angry wind. So these are the lines of this stanza. The poet is also referring here his own experience. He refers to his wife, to his beloved whose name was Morgana, and he loved her very much, very passionately, but she did not give the proper response to W.B. Yeats. She disliked him, she left him because she was very arrogant. So, in these lines, the poet means to say that he doesn't want his daughter to be grown like Morgana. He says that the world he sees heading towards anarchy. So, anarchism is going to be prevalent in this world. So, he praises charm, good manners, wisdom, and courtesy, which can only help a person to survive in such a world. He wants that his daughter should be free from hatred. So, here in these lines, the poet is criticizing, or the poet is disagree absolutely, or he thinks that the intellectual hatred is the worst thing in the world, and that such things should not be there in the mind of his daughter. He says that recently he himself has suffered so much. In lines he says, "Have I not seen the loveliest woman born out of the mouth of plenteous home?" So he says that he has suffered much unhappiness to see that the people he liked and great beauty that he loved got only little happiness in life. That is, he loved the great beauty, he loved the people, but that all brought to him the unhappiness, that brought unhappiness to that person as well. So, Morgana also suffered as well as the poet suffered. So, he wants that his daughter should consider strong opinions as detestable things. So, his daughter should avoid the intellectual hatredness, the strong opinions. So, a person should not have the strong opinions or the adamant or the proud of being that he is only the one who is rich and intellectual, others are poor fellows. So he says that he has seen the fate of a most beautiful woman who belonged to a well-to-do family. So he is here referring to Morgana, who belonged to a well-to-do family. But she had strong opinions about herself, about others, about lives, about politics, and therefore she lost her happiness. And later on, what was the result? Because of the strong opinions, that she lost her happiness. She sacrificed her beauty and all her good qualities, which were appreciated by her quiet admirers. For what? For becoming an out of date revolutionary orator. That is, she wanted to become a revolutionary orator. Therefore, she sacrificed her all good qualities, her courtesy, her prosperity as well as, and then filled with what? She was full of words in favor of violent actions with freedom for Ireland. So she jumped into the freedom struggle of the island, and she spoke very bluntly, and angry words were there in her mind all the time. That is, she became the opinionated. She became proud. and didn't like anyone else. But the result was that she gained nothing. So, this is the reference to Maud Gonne, whom the poet loved very much, but she refused many Yeats. She refused not only W.B. Yeats, but many other suitors as well as. So the poet always complained, Maud Gonne, about her intellectual hatredness. She thought that she was only the intelligent one. She thought that she was something extraordinary. She thought that W. Yeats was not equal to her. So, horn of plenty, here we have the phrase that was in stanza 4, symbolizes innocence and ceremony. But here, plenty's horn. There it was horn of plenty, now it is plenty's horn. In this stanza, it means the sweet voice, and it is contrasted with an old bellows full of angry winds. ओल्ड बेलोज, जिनको आप हिंदी में कह सकते हैं एक तरह से जिन पे अपन एयर प्रेशर, हवा मारने की, जिसके अंदर हवा भरती है, और हवा जैसे अपन धोंकड़ी जिसको गांव में कहते हैं, जिसमें फूंक मारने पर आग जो है तेज होती है, तो यहाँ उसी का मतलब है कि जो ओल्ड बेलोज हैं, दे आर फुल ऑफ एंग्री वर्ड्स, मीन्स आप यू आर चार्जिंग इट विद फ्यूल, you are filling it with extra fuel so that the fire and the flames can rise up. So this is a good rich image. Now come to the lines of the stanzas of 9. Considering that all hatred driven hence, the soul recovers radical innocence and learns at last that it is self-delighting, self-appeasing, self-affrighting, and that its own sweet will is heaven's will. She can, though every face should scowl, and every windy water howl, or every bellows burst, be happy still. So now, as he has disregarded the intellectual hatredness, so he doesn't want that his daughter should grow with such kind of the worse qualities, but she should grow with good manners, courtesies, good habits, and other goodnesses as well. So, because he considers that the intellectual hatred is the worst of all evils, and therefore his daughter should avoid all kind of the strong opinions and adamancy. Then he considers that the absence of the hatred keeps the soul radically innocent. So there should not be hatredness in the mind. And if there is no hatredness, then the soul will be innocent, radically innocent. It will be self-delighting, it will be self-shining, and contented, money means satisfied soul. So the poet's daughter may feel that her sweet will is God's will. So if she has sweet wills, if she feels sweet, if she is contented, if she is self-shining, then it is the will of God. So her sweet will is the God's will. Therefore, he wants that she should grow without intellectual hatred. Being free from this hatred, she may always be happy, and she would be happy. And even though the whole world turns hostile to her. So here the poet says that if the one thing that he considers the worst is the intellectual hatred, and if his daughter is without that, then she will be extremely happy. She will be always happy, even though, you see the last lines, even though she can, though every face should scowl. So, even though she would face the obstacles that every man, everyone seems to her bad, worst, attacking, and every windy quarter howl, and the whole world turns to hostile to her, and the storm of misfortunes blow against her. That is every windy quarter howl, roaring, or every bellows burst, and every bellows that is which is full of the angry words, full of the storms which are full of the misfortunes. So all kind of these obstacles will come in her way or in her life, but even then she would be safe, she would be happy if she doesn't have intellectual hatred. So without hatred, she will be natural, her soul will find joy and contentment within itself, as well as she will have a strength and determination to keep off evil and sorrow from itself. So, blowing of the wind and bursting of the bellows symbolizes here the buffets of misfortunes. Blowing of the winds, that is the roaring of the winds, and bursting, जैसे bursting bellows जो होते हैं हवा से भरे हुए, अगर bellows वो फूट जाते हैं तो ये सब क्या है? ये सब they are the symbol of misfortunes. So misfortunes will come there. Even then she would be happy if she is without hate, intellectual hate. Okay? Now come to the stanza 10. And many her bridegroom bring her to a house where all's accustomed ceremonious, for arrogance and hatred are the wares peddled in the thoroughfares. How but in custom and in ceremony are innocence and beauty horn? Ceremony is name for the rich horn, and custom for the spreading laurel tree. So, as we also saw in the introduction of the poet, that the poet is very much attached to the word ceremony. Ceremony and ceremonial, these words are very common in his poetry. So, in the last, he also recommends in this poem for his daughter that she should be ceremonious. So, let's see what are there. Now, he desires for his daughter what kind of her husband should be. So, she says that, he says that may her bridegroom bring her to a house. So he hopes that her bridegroom, her husband, will bring her to a house where all is accustomed ceremonies, where everything is courteous and ceremonial. That is, he hopes that her husband, she will marry to a man who belongs to a courteous and aristocratic family. He also recommends the aristocratic as well as but courteous aristocratic. Not only aristocratic but courteous. So he prays God that her husband may take her to home of perpetual tradition and ceremonies. So accustomed and ceremonious. Because for arrogance and hatred are the ways. He says because the arrogance and the hatred are the common in the common people. They are related to the common people. Peddled in the thoroughfares. Thoroughfares means here common people. So arrogance and hatred generally found in common people. So he doesn't want that his daughter should grow like a common people, because then she would also be arrogant and hatred. But she should grow like aristocratic and like courteous aristocratic person. Then he says, how but in custom and in ceremony are innocence and beauty home. So he says that aristocratic life is routed to custom and ceremony, which are the sources of innocence and duty. Ceremonious courtesy, he recommends, is a source of happiness and success of life. So the ceremonious शिष्टाचार courtesy जो कि एरिस्टोक्रेटिक फैमिलीज में होती है, that is the permanent source of happiness and success, the poet considers. It is source of gladdening and cheerfulness. He also says that aristocratic courtesy is routed to long tradition. So aristocratic courtesy is long rooted in tradition. So the poet also recommends the tradition. So in last two lines are very important. Ceremonies name for the rich horn. So ceremony is the another name for prosperity, for aristocracy. Whereas the custom, that is the tradition, is the spreading laurel tree. We have already read the laurel tree in the previous stanzas, around which the linnet are humming or murmuring their permanent sounds. So, tradition here stands for the growing laurel tree of life. So, he means that decent and refined courtesy leads to prosperity and happiness. So, an elegant customary behavior leads to bright success and honor in life. So, the poet recommends for his daughter the ceremony and tradition. He recommends that she should be married with an aristocratic man. That will bring her honor, and she should grow like a laurel tree of life. That is, which is rooted at one place. And tradition here, that is in a traditional family, she should live in a traditional family, because traditional family has certain manners and courtesies which are running from a long time before in that family. So, in this way, the poet is making a prayer for his little child in this poem. Dear students, thank you very much. I hope you will enjoy this poem very much, and next time we will meet with another new poem. Till then, bye bye. Thank you very much.